Okay, everyone, now we are chapter 4. So, chapter 4, the title of this chapter is Making the Business Case for Information System and Managing Project. Okay, and this chapter will have two study case. One of them will be the discussion topic, and you need to pose an answer uh, about related to the study case question. Okay, and for the first study case over here, the Al-Asashia implements a modern ERP solution, will be discussed here a little. Okay, so let's get started. And these are the learning objectives after you study this chapter. Okay, so let's start from the first study case. It's from Al-Asashia, who implements a modern ERP solutions. And these are the articles that you need to read before the discussion, before we talk about this study case. And I will just skip this in the presentation. Okay, first of all, I would like to tell you who is Al Asasha. Okay, so Al Asasha is a Saudi Arabia company, one of the Saudi Arabia company that sells electronics and appliances like TV, fridge, and kind of things. They had multiple branches, but their old computer systems were slow, messy, and couldn't talk to each other. Like, you know, it's like using a Nokia uh in the iPhone era. Okay, so yeah, that's the old computer system they have. And then um they have this kind of problems like outdated systems. So outdated systems means everything is chaos. Data was inconsistent, like for examples in sales in Riyadh didn't match inventory in Jeddah, the other cities, kind of things. And then the employees might waste their times fixing error instead of helping the customers. So these are the problems they have. And then the solution is to have the ERP system. ERP is a super smart brain for the company. The ERP can connect all departments like sales, inventory, human resource in one system. And it can automate the boring tasks like tracking orders or payroll, this kind of repetitive tasks in the companies, right? So using ERP system, they will get what is called real-time updates. So no more waiting for spreadsheets, and yeah, everything can be decided quickly. Okay, so how did they succeed? They have this kind of strong team. Okay, strong team here is the mix between IT experts and the employees who knew the business inside out. And then they also do what is called a careful planning. Okay, so they choose the right ERP vendors. In this case, they choose the Sajaya ERP and then map every steps. And when the PACE implementation, when the PACE rollout, they tested in the small branches first and then expanded. Okay. And after that, they also do some training for the employees. So employees got hands-on practice. So everyone can get familiar with the system. So as the result, the project was completed in 8 months. Yeah, it's literally faster than any other companies. Okay, and then they can improve the efficiency. Yeah, happy employees, which less frustration and more teamwork, and of course, happy customers. Okay, because it's faster service, it's accurate orders. So ERP is not just a software, it's about people, planning, and patience. All right, now let's start these chapters by starting with the questions. How should managers build a business case for acquisition and development of new information system? You know that decision making in business used to be limited to management. However, today, the lower level employees are responsible for some of these decisions as the information system make information available to lower level of the business. So, uh, what do we mean by better decision making? How does decision making take place in businesses and other organizations? All right, let's take a closer look. Well, many IT projects fail because they don't actually solve the right problem, okay? Or because the people affected by the changes are not properly prepared. And these waste time and money. So the goal is we want to pick up the best project, the one that brings the most value for the business, and then we want to make sure they are worth the investment. Okay. So when it comes to the proposal detailing, we need to include some questions to be answered, like what kind of problems we are solving and how, and then what will it cost, what are the benefits, and what could go wrong, yeah, the risk. And then the next questions is, does this fit with the company's big picture goals? Will it help the organizations or not? Kind of things. Okay. Okay, so now let's check why. Okay, the why. Uh, the reason, the main reason why a company might decide to invest in a new project like an IT system or maybe a product or a service. Okay, so maybe this slide will answer a questions of why should we spend money on this? Okay. Um, First, the strategic fit. This means that the project helps the company to stand out or maybe save money, of course. Yeah. For example, uh, is there any way to make the products cheaper? Means lower cost. And then, is there any new features competitors don't have? It means they differentiate the products, and then yeah, those kind of things. Okay. And then the second key factors for a business case is to improve the decision making. The project gives better data or tools to make the smart choices, right? So um an analytics tools that shows which products sell best will give a picture for the companies, okay, which is this is a good information that the companies have for a better decision making, right? And next, the customer and suppliers relationship. So we want to make an interaction smoother for buyers or partners. Okay, so we want to make a kind of portal for suppliers to track orders automatically, and we want to make a portal for customer so they can track their orders and yeah, do those kind of things. And the next one, the next key factor is the survival. Yeah. So company has to do it to stay legal and competitive. Like upgrading software to meet new data privacy law, those kind of things. And then new products or services, the next factors. This is to creating something new to earn more money, like streaming service adding watch these friend features kind of things. Yeah, okay, the features, the new features, and then financial rationale. The project saved money or earned more than it cost. So we want to know that. Like automatic tasks to reduce labor costs, the ROI, return on investment. Yeah, those kind of things. And then the last key vectors for the business case is the long-term IT blend alignment. So we want to fit with the company's tech roadmap, right? No debt and solution. So we want to choose the software that can grow with the business. It's very important. Okay, so these slides show us how the companies create a roadmap for the IT system. So it's like a chef having a recipe for making sure that the food is good, right? So the same thing. So companies want to make sure that technology supports their business goals. So yeah, let's go one by one. First of all is the purpose. The purpose is why we are doing this. This to answer why we are doing this. Um, like maybe we need faster customer service, or maybe the business process, our current order system is slow and causes error. So we need new system, okay, to help with that. And then the second, the next plan is to strategic rationale, okay, the current state, the current goals, where are we now and where do we want to be, those kind of things, okay. And then the current systems, the capabilities, the current gap, what kind of tools do we have and what's missing, okay. And then the next one, the new project, okay, the descriptions, the infrastructures need, what kind of technology solutions will fix the gaps, those kind of things. And then the next plan is the management strategy, the training, the human resource, the control, like how will people adapt to these changes, those kind of things. And then the last one is the implementation plan, the milestone and the challenge, the step-by-step timeline and hurdles, okay. And without this plan, the companies might waste money on technology that doesn't fit, and then um, there might be confused employees with sudden change, and the companies might miss deadlines due to poor preparation. So this is very important if the company wants to swift change to the new IT system. Okay. All right. So this is just a step-by-step guide for the companies to plan their IT system, like a to-do list for making technology work smarter for the business. Okay. I think it's quite straightforward. So we start with the purpose of the plan, why we are making this plan and what's inside, and then the overview, the strategic business plan rationale. It's about what's our big picture goal and what's standing in our way. And then the current system, what technology do we already have now and why is it not enough? Okay, and then the fourth is the new development. What new technology do we need to fix these problems? And then the fifth, the management strategy. How will we handle people and process during the change? And the next one is the implementation of the plan. Yeah, it's basically it's the same. How will we roll this out and what could go wrong? Okay. All right, so let's go to the portfolio analysis. This is where, for example, if you are the manager of the pizza shop with the limited money to spend, and then you need to decide whether to buy a new oven or whether to train the new staff with uh, the new items that you have, and then maybe redesign the new menus. Okay, so this portfolio analysis will help the businesses to make these exact kind of decisions for their IT project. Okay, so here we want to evaluate projects by risk versus benefit. Okay, so projects are sorted into four simple categories. The the green light, the green light projects where we have the high benefit and low risk, uh, and we have the yellow light where the high benefit, also high risk, okay, and then red light is the low benefit and high risk, and the next one is the maybe maybe project because it's low benefit and low risk. Okay, so and this table, as you can see that we have the this is the benefit. Okay, the low high benefit and low benefit. Meanwhile, on the top of the table is the high risk or low risk. Okay, if the if the project has a high risk and a high risk and high benefits, uh, we need to be cautious. Okay, need to be um, we need to be cautious. Okay, high risk and high benefit. Uh, yes, and then maybe the high risk, low benefit. We need to avoid it. Okay, and then a low risk with a high benefit. Yeah, identify and develop. We can do it right now. But low risk and low benefit. Well, maybe later. Yeah, maybe the maybe. All right. So what this or why this is matter, because this will stops company from wasting money and on bread project, and it will help to balance between safe versus big innovation, safe bets versus big innovation. So it's like choosing which steps need to do first, okay, by doing this kind of portfolio analysis. And then we also can do the scoring models for IT project, okay? So scoring model is like making a decision scorecard to compare your options fairly. And how to make these scoring models work? We have three steps over here. Steps one is to decide what matters most, like you can give to the percentage the important scores, yeah. And then step two, it gives some alternative each options. For example, options one, and then how well each alternatives works. You can give the scoring like 0 to 100% kind of things. And then the last step is doing the math. You can multiply weights, scores, and then add it up to select the best options. And this is how the scoring models for an ERP system, as you can see in this table, they compares to ERP system, system A and system B, ERP system A and system B, using these scoring models. So it's like grading these two systems, okay? So we start with the criteria. So the criteria for the system A will be 62%, right? The order processing, like taking order online, checking inventory, those kind of things. The ERP system A, they have 67% score, and then for system B they have the 73%. Okay. And then for the inventory management, this is to predict the production's need. We have the warehouse and then like those kind of things. And then the company can give the score for system A and system B. Okay. Uh, and then the warehouse. Okay, the warehouse, shipping and receiving goods. So the companies can give a score between these two. So there will be a grand total of the systems, which one have a weight score. Okay, as you can see here, ERP system B scores more than the ERP system A. So even though it's not perfect, it scores higher overall. Okay, right. So let's talk about check some measurable and hard to measure impact. Okay. So if you're talking about the tangible or measurable, this is something that easy to count, direct savings or profits that you can calculate. And yeah, for examples, if you want to switch to Microsoft Project Online to cut the operational cost, okay, this is measurable. How about the intangible, harder to measure? So this is kind of some improvements that don't show up on the spreadsheet but matter in the long term. For example, the customer satisfactions. Fewer complaints because the product is user friendly, and then employer morale, staff enjoys using modern tools. So this part of this intangible uh, harder to measure. Okay. So if you want to compare these two costs, yeah, hardware, software, labor, and training maintenance, we can do this comparison between the tangible benefits and the intangible benefit. And as you can see here, that the server software can save, for example, half a year in labor. And then the intangible, maybe the happier students or happy customers, like that. And then for training and maintenance, and maybe reduce workforce, reduce the errors by 30% more, and then the staff feel more confident in this case. So yeah. So um these slides will give the companies the information system benefits that is can be measured, and of course hard to measure. Okay. Okay, so these slides give us an examples on how the university wants to build a new student app. So before they spending the money, they need to answer um, some questions like, is this investment worth or not? Okay. Um, okay. So what we are measuring in this case, first of all, the cash outflows. Okay, the hardware, the software, and then the labor, the salaries, kind of things. And then the cash inflows, yeah, for examples, increase sales or reduce costs, and then the increase revenue, those kind of things. And there are also a common evaluation method. It's called a payback method. Like, how fast do we earn back the money we spent? So if the app cost 50,000, and by that spending, the company saved 10,000 a year. So the payback is 5 years. Okay, you got what I mean, right? And then oh, okay, I think I will explain in the next slides. It will be better explanation. Okay, so this is the thing that I was just explained before, the payback period, the ROI, and the NPV. Okay, so the payback period, like I explained before, it's, for example, if your company spend $50,000 for the app, and then the save money, the company can save money like 10,000 a year. So the payback period will be 5 years. Okay. And then the ROI, the return on the investment, where this is the probability in percentage. For examples, the app cost 100,000 $100,000, and then the companies can earn 150,000 over the 5 years. So the return on investment is the 150 minus 100, and then it's equals to 50,000, and it's multiplied by 100%, so it's 50%. Okay, and then the NPV, it's the net present value. It's today's value of all future cash flows, and it's positive. If it's positive, it means that the 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 the, the project interest rate is good. Okay, okay, so these are the limitation of the financial models. Sometimes they runs calculation show it will save money, but some others complain it's hard to use. So these slides explains why the numbers alone don't tell the whole story. Okay, first of all, it's maybe because the organizational disruption cost, like the training time, or maybe the temporary productivity drops, okay, slower grading during transitions, kind of things. And then they also ignore the intangible benefits, like maybe the faster decisions, the employee skills growth, yeah. And then maybe another reason is because the over reliance on numbers. Yeah, we saw only the company only see the numbers here in this calculation, but they don't see any other uh factors that should um support the IT system. Okay. All right. So now the next session, what are the objectives of the project management and why is it so essential in developing information system? Okay, so this slides will explains that many information system projects like software app or system business fail if they're not well managed. Okay, and these failures happened because they can be a system might take too long to finish, and it could cost more money than planned, or maybe worse, it might not work expected or not be used at all. So why is this project management is very important? Because it will helps to control cost so the project stays within the budget. And also it helps the team to stick to the schedule, and it makes sure that the final system actually provides the value to the users, and it increases the chance that the system will be used successfully. When a project like building a new app or system, if it's not managed well, it can lead to a serious problems. And this slide shows what can go wrong if project management is poor. And there are some common problems, okay, and sometimes it's called the outcomes that often happened. First of all is the cost overruns. This means that the project spends more money than planned. Like for example, a project might be budgeted at 1 billion or 1 million NT dollars, and then ends up costing 2 million NT dollars. Okay, so it's more than budget. And then the time slippage, this means that the project is late. It was supposed to be finished in 6 months, but it takes 9 months or maybe more than that. Okay, and then the technical shortfalls. Yeah, this means that the system doesn't work properly. Maybe it's slow, it crashes often, or doesn't have all the features it promised, kind of things. And then a failure to deliver the benefits, even if the system is finished, it might not help the users or the business. So it might not be used at all, or people find it confusing or useless. And the real life examples I can give you is from the US Navy's navigation system. The design led to a ship collision to poor user interface. Because the system was badly designed, especially the user interface, it caused a ship collision. This is a very serious failure to the poor project management. All right, now this slide talks about how the common uh, IT for the project, like software or the systems to fail and why that happens. Okay, and so we can see here, if the number says 66% of the big software projects spend more money than planned, and 33% run over the schedule. And every year, half of the businesses experience a failed IT project. So, IT project failure is not rare, it happens a lot. So, why do this failure happens? First of all, it's because unrealistic timelines and budgets, unrealistic plans. The team sets deadlines or budgets that are too optimistic and not based on real data. And then sometimes it's also missing the features. The final system doesn't have all the functions that users need. And lastly, the poor alignment with the business need. The system might work technically, but doesn't actually help the business do its job better. So why project fail? Many projects, especially in IT or information system, don't success because there are four big reasons why that happens. The poor requirements capture. The team didn't clearly understand what the business really need, so the final system might be technically correct, but not useful for the people who need it. And then maybe some technical issues. It is kind of problems with how the system works. It might be too slow, show the wrong data, or be too hard to use. Okay, and then user resistance. This is very uh, the common issue why the system don't work. Even a system work, people won't use it if it's too confusing or too frustrating. The bad design, like the messy layouts or complicated forms, can make users give up. And then the scope creep. Okay, and this happens when the project keeps growing beyond the original plan, and the new features get added without proper planning, making the project harder to finish on time or within the budget. As we know that the main goal of the project management is to make sure a project is done on time, within budget, and with good quality. And to reach that goal, there are five important things. It's called the key variables that project managers must manage carefully. First of all, the scope. This is the content or the coverage of the project. Okay. And then second one is the time. And this refers to the schedule and the deadlines. How long will the project will take and when should each task be done? And then the cost. Yeah, the cost. The budget. How much money will company need for people, for tools, for equipment, for software? And then the quality. The system should meet the business expectations, right? It should be accurate, it could be easy to use, it should be perform well, those kind of things. And then the risk, okay? Every project has uncertainties, okay? Things that might go wrong. So these risks must be identified and managed. When managing a project, there are several important activities that need to be done to make sure everything goes smoothly. And these slides breaks them into three main parts. First of all is the planning, risk assessment, and resource estimation. So planning and estimating, this is the first step in managing a project. It includes the planning, what needs to be done and when, and then the risk assessment, what could go wrong, and the resource estimation, like how much time, how much money, and people will we need. The second step is to organizing and to monitoring. Once the plan is ready, you need to organize the task, like break down the work into a clear task, and then directing teams. You assign people to do specific jobs and monitoring the progress. You need to keep checking to make sure things are going as planned. Okay, that was step two. And then step three, the last step, is the critical focus area. The project managers must pay special attention to avoid the scope creep, to prevent this project from growing beyond the original plan, and then to track the milestone, check if the key steps are completed on time, and to mitigate risk, to handle problems like supplier delays or outdated technology. These are like a red flags to watch for the project so it doesn't get off the course. And by focusing on these activities, the project managers can keep the project under control and increase the chances of the succeed. The next session is what are the principal risk factors in information system project? We have already introduced the topic of information system risk and risk assessment in chapter 8. And in this chapter, we describe the specific risks to information system projects and show what can be done to manage them effectively. Okay, so there are three key dimensions of risk. First of all is the project size. The bigger the project in terms of money, time, number of people, and department involved, the more risk it carries. You know, bigger projects are harder to control and more things can go wrong. So research shows that large projects are 50 to 70% more likely to fail than the smaller one. And then the next one is the project structure. If the project has clear fixed requirements, like we know exactly what needs to be done, and then it's low risk. If the requirements keep changing, the risk becomes much higher because the team might waste time redoing the work. Okay. And then the technical expertise. If the team doesn't understand the technology well, they are also more likely to face delays or errors. And this and and the less experience of a team has with the system or tool, the riskier the project becomes. So to reduce the risk, project managers must plan carefully, must define clear requirements, and choose the right people with the right skills. When building a system information, maybe an app or software, there are two important groups involved in this case. First of all, the role of end users, the people who will actually use the system. Okay. And the second one is the designer or the developers, the technical experts who build the system. So what are the role of the end user? If users are involved in the development process from the beginning, the system is more likely to meet their needs, and the users are more likely to accept and use the final products. So, involving the end user will help to avoid the misunderstandings and creates a better system. But actually, there's a problem. If these two groups often don't understand each other well because they are very different in backgrounds, they are very different in priorities, and they are also different in language. The users use everyday words. Meanwhile, the designers use more likely a technical terms in this case. Though this can cause miscommunication, and the result might be a system that works but doesn't really help the users. So to be succeed, the project's team must bridge this gap to help the users and the designers communicate clearly and work together throughout the project. Okay, so this is the how the user and designers communication um, how is the gap, okay? When a system being developed, users, the people who use it, and the designers, who people who build it, often think about different things, and this can cause miscommunication. And this table shows what each group usually worries about. Um, for from the user concerned, will the system meet our needs? And from the designer concerned, how will this impact servers? And then from the users, can we access the data on all devices? And meanwhile, for designers, what programming is required? So it's very different, okay? Because the users, they more focus on practical use, how the system will help them to do their job. Meanwhile, the designers, they focus on the technical things like coding, the servers and storage, because they both focus on different things. There can be a misalignment. The requirements may be unclear or incomplete, so as the result, the system may not match what users really need. And this can lead to project failures. So it's very important for users and designers to communicate clear and work together. And that way, the system will be useful, functional, and successful. So why communication gaps matter? When working on information system, good communication between users and designers is very important. If they don't understand each other, it can lead to a big problem. Okay, so this slide explains why those gap matters. Um, the different focus, the divergent priorities. Users, you know, only care about how the system helps them to do their job easily and solve the business problems, while the designers they more focus on the technology, how it makes fun run fast, how make it efficiently, and how to make it securely. Because they think differently. It's easy to be a miscommunication to happen. And then the consequences. If user feels like their input is being ignored, they may lose interest and stop participating. Then designers may build the wrong system, okay? One that no one wants to use. So as a result, a system that works technically, but it's never actually used. So how to fix it? The solution. To avoid this, we need to collaborate, involve both users and designers in discussion. And then we need to use the clear documentation, like write things down in a way both sides understand, and then get the feedback regularly. That the users try early versions and then give the input. And of course, the management support and commitment is also an important concept in any project. Okay, the management support and commitment simply means that the people in charge at all different levels of the organization are fully behind a project or a new way of doing things. They are not just saying yes, but they need to be actively showing their backing. Okay. Okay, so the backing and the commitment of management at various levels. Now let's look at why this backing is so crucial. First of all, it affects positive perceptions by both users and technical staff. When management clearly uh, support something, it sends a strong message. Okay, and it ensures sufficient funding and resources. This is pretty straightforward. Building an app or implementing any big change costs money and requires people, equipment, and sometimes even dedicated office space. If a management is commitment, they will make sure that the project has the budget it needs. They will allocate the necessary funds and ensure you have the access to the right tools and enough skilled people to get the job done. And without the support, your project might run out of money and you might not have enough people to complete it, and leading to delays or even to failure. Oh, it's also helped to enforce required organizational changes. Yes, let's say your new app changed how students register for classes. This means that the old way of the registering has to stop and everyone has to learn the new systems, right? And we all know change can be tough and people often resist it. But when management is commitment, they can help to make these changes happen smoothly. They can communicate the importance of the new system, set the new policies, and make sure everyone follows the new procedures. They have the authority to remove the roadblocks and ensure that everyone transitioning to the new ways of working. Without their enforcement, people might just stick to the old ways, and your amazing new app won't be used effectively. Okay, so yeah, management support and commitment act like an engine and steering wheel of a car. Without them, your project might even not get started. It certainly won't have the fuel to keep going, and it definitely won't be able to navigate the road ahead. It's a fundamental ingredient for the success. Okay, so this is another super critical topic, especially when we talk about introducing new systems like the new software, new ways of working, or even new equipment into an organization. And these slides tells us for a new system to be truly successful, we need to ensure that the organizations adopts it. And it highlights three key factors that are required for successful system building and it ensuring for the organizational adoptions. Okay, first of all, the user involvement. This means getting the people who will actually use the new system involved right from the very beginning, not just at the end, but during the planning and development stages. Okay, early participation, higher satisfactory, and better alignment. Okay, and then the management support. Okay, we just talked about this on the last slide, and it's so important that it's listed here again. And the executive backing or resource and the priority and the enforcement of changes, you know. And then change agent role or system analyst. A change agent is someone who helps to facilitate and guide the change process. Often in systems project, system analyst plays this role. This person mediates conflict and communicates benefits and ensures smooth transitions. And 70% of the business process or enterprise project fail due to poor change management. This is really stark and important statistic. It means that even you build a technically perfect system, if you don't manage the human side of the change, if you don't involve the users to get management support and have a good change agents, there's a very high chance your project will fail. It's emphasized that change management is not just nice to have, it's absolutely essential for success. Okay, so this topic highlights why implementing a big complex system or integrate companies after a merger can be incredible difficult, you know. Um, they are up to 70% for BPR project might be failure. Okay, it's a very high rate, right? You know BPR, right? PPR stands for Business Process Re-engineer. This is when the company completely overhauls how it does things. Like totally changing how they handle customers' orders from start to finish. And why do they fail? The failure rate is so high. It's because the poor implementation and change management practices, the employees' concern about change, and then the resistance by the key managers, the changing job functions, the career path, the recruitment practices, okay? Because people naturally worry when things change. They might fear losing their job, not being able to learn the new system, or that daily work will become harder to handle. And then the resistance, if the managers who are supposed to lead their teams to the change are not on board, they can actively or passively resist, making it impossible for the team to adopt the new system. So yeah, now let's break down this specific challenge in two main areas. Uh, the first thing is enterprise application or the ERP. You know ERP, right? ERP stands for Enterprise Resource Planning. These are huge integrated software suites that manage all the core business process of the company, like finance, human resource, manufacturing, and supply chain. This is the core business. This is a single massive brain for the entire organization. So the challenge is this system require cross-functional coordination, the process redesigned, okay? Because an ERP system touch almost every department, it requires all these different departments to work together seamlessly and agree on how the system will operate. This is like getting all the different departments in the university, like admissions, finance, academic departments, to agree on a single unified way to manage the data. Okay, it's incredibly complex because each department has its own way of doing things. And then process redesigned. Yeah, it's implementing an ERP. It's not just about installing software, it's about changing how the company operates and its fundamental business process to fit the best practice to build into the ERP system. This can be a massive undertaking and forcing people to abandon familiar way of working and learn completely new one. And then the mergers and the acquisition. This is when one company buys or merges with another. There are two companies becoming one, and the challenge uh, are very significant because you know considerably organizational change means complex system projects. When two companies merge, you are not just combining bank accounts, you are combining cultures, combining policies, and critically their information system. These involve massive organizational change wherein the employees from the both sides. And about the legal system integration, this is also another challenge because it's complex, costly, and critical for a merger succeed. The legally systems are the old existing IT systems that each company used before the merger. Imagine the company A uses one type of accounting software and then company B uses another, yeah, those kind of things. And then trying to get these different, often incompatible system to talk to each other or deciding which one to keep and which to discard is incredibly complex and costly. You might have to build custom interface and then migrate huge amounts of data or even replace the entire system. And then the poor integration leads to operational chaos. If you don't integrate the system well, the result is chaos. You might have inaccurate data, delays in operations, customers getting confused, and employees unable to do their job effectively. And this can quick undermine the very reason for the merger in the first place. So these slides warns us that while enterprise system and mergers over great potential benefit, they come with immense challenges, primarily due to the complexity of integrating technology with human behavior and establish the process. Failing to manage the people side of change and the technical integration is a recipe for disaster. So, yeah, that's explained that high failure rate. Okay, how can project risk be managed? Okay, this is very important. Now, let's talk about the project risk. This is a crucial topic for anyone involved in managing project, whether it's building a new software or maybe organizing an event or even just planning a group assignment. Okay, let's start with the very important statements. Risk can derail project if not managed properly. What does derail mean here? Okay, imagine a train. If it gets derailed, it goes off the track and cannot continue its journey. It's similar. A project can go off track, meaning it might run over budget, miss the deadline, not deliver what it promised, or even be completely cancelled. The risks are like potential problems or are centered uncertainties that could cause these bad things to happen. Now, the good news is that we don't just sit back and let risk derail our project. We have to step to manage the risk, which are the essentially strategies to deal with these potential problems. Okay, so first of all, to identify the nature and the level of the risk confronting the project. This is the very first step. It's like being a detective. You need to figure out what could go wrong. How bad would it be if it did go wrong? And how likely is it to go wrong? Is it small chances or very high probability? And by understanding the nature and level of each risk, you can prioritize which ones to focus on. You wouldn't treat any tiny potential hiccups the same way you would treat a risk that could sink the entire project. Okay, next up, use appropriate tool and strategies. Once you've identified the risk, you need to plan. You need a plan for each significant one. This is not just about hoping for the best. And tool here, this could involve using things like a risk register and brainstorming sessions with your teams, or even specialized software for risk analysis. And strategies here means that your action plans. Okay, for examples, how to avoid the risk. Can you change your approach so the risk doesn't even exist? Or maybe to mitigate the risk, how can you reduce the likelihood or impact of the risk? Okay, something like that. And then to transfer the risk, can you shift the risk to someone else? Okay, and uh, accept the risk. Okay, for very low impact of unlikely risk, you might decide to just accept the possibility and deal with it if it's happened. Okay, And then the next step to manage the risk is to foster collaboration and communication to help the project teams to adapt to unforeseen problems that arise. This point is about the human element, which is critical. The collaboration, we need to encourage the team members to work together and share information openly. If someone spots a potential problem, they should feel comfortable bringing up immediately. And then the communication, keep everyone in the loop. Regularly discuss risk in team meetings. When an unforeseen problem does rise, open communication helps the team quickly identify it, understand its impact, and collectively brainstorms the solution. And then adapt to adapt to unforeseen problems that arise. Okay, no project plan is perfect, and unexpected issues will pop up. Okay, a collaborative and communicative team is much better at being flexible, finding creative solutions, and adjusting their course quickly to get the project back on track. If people hide problems or work in silence, a small issue can become a huge crisis. Okay. Okay, now let's turn our attention to the sides. The managing technical complexity. This is a big one, especially in today's world where technology is constantly evolving and projects often involve very integrated systems. Um, and we try to break down the challenges that arise from the technical complexity. Okay. The challenge, okay, the complex technology. This is exactly what it sounds like. We're talking about projects that use brand new technologies or a lot of different technologies that need to work together perfectly, or system with many moving parts that interact in integrate ways. Okay. And then a next challenge is the unclear requirement. This is a huge problem in any projects, but especially with the complex technology. Requirements are simply what the system needs to do, okay? And unclear requirement means that project team is not exactly sure what they are supposed to build. Maybe the client keeps changing their mind, or they don't know themselves what they truly need. So, what are the solutions? First of all, is to hire the experienced project leaders with technical and administrative skills. This is about having the right person at the companies. You need someone who is not just a good manager, but also understands the technical details of the project. They need to be able to speak the language of the developers, understand the technical hurdles, and make informed decisions about the technology being used. An experienced leader can foresee the technical problems, understand the complex technical discussion, and guide the team effectively through the maze of the complex system. And then hold uh, frequent team meetings. Yeah, this might sound simple, but it's incredibly powerful. When you're dealing with complex technology and potential unclear requirements, regular communication is vital. Um, Frequent meetings, like daily, weekly, or maybe reviews, can help the team to stay aligned, to identify problems early, and to share knowledge and to adapt quickly. Okay, bring in external expertise if needed. Sometimes even the most experienced teams won't have all the answers, especially with cutting edge or very specialized technology. In these cases, it's wise to bring in external expertise, and this means hiring consultants or specialists from outside of the company who have deep knowledge in a specific technical area where your team might be lacking. Okay. Okay, so let's look at these slides. A formal planning and control tools. Okay, so after talking about all the challenge and the risk in the projects, you might be wondering, how do we actually keep track of everything and make sure it gets done? This is where these tools comes in. These are basically structures way to plan your project and then monitor its progress to make sure it stays on track. They are used for documenting and monitoring project plans, and they also help to identify the bottleneck and the impact of the problems. Okay, okay. So bottlenecks here, I will try to explain them more for some terms that is maybe you are not familiar with. The bottleneck here, um, imagine a narrow part of a road where traffic gets stuck. In a project, a bottleneck is a task that's holding everything else up, and these tools help you spot those. Okay. Now, the slide highlights these two very common and useful tools, the Gantt charts and the PERT charts. They both help with the planning, but they show information in slightly different ways and are good for different situations. For Gantt charts, this is a calendar. It's like a calendar for your project. It's visual representation. Um, Timing and duration of tasks, and also human resource requirements for tasks. It means that who is working on what, something like that. And it has the features of the horizontal bars, shows task duration. Each task gets a horizontal bar, and the length of the bar shows how long that task is expected to take. Okay, and then for the PERT charts, it's actually PERT, the PERT charts. PERT is stands for Program Evaluation and Review Technique. Okay, it's less about a timeline and more about the order and the dependency of the task. Okay, it graphically depicts tasks and interrelationship. This means it shows you which task must be completed before others can even start. And it has a features like nodes represents tasks with durations and dates. In a PERT chart, tasks are usually represented as circle or boxes, which is called nodes. And inside these nodes, you will find some information about a task, like its estimated duration kind of things. And the arrow also shows task sequences. Lines with arrows connect these nodes, and the arrow going from task A to task B means that task A must be finished before the task B can begin. Okay, this clearly shows the flow of the work. Okay, so this is how we see a closer look at the real world example of the Gantt charts. And this is one of the examples of the formal planning and the control tools. Now we can see one. Um, Remember that the Gantt chart is essentially a visual timeline for a project. It helps us to see all the tasks when they start and when they end, how long they take, and who is responsible for them. And this specific Gantt chart is for a data administration project, HRIS, okay, HRIS, Human Resource Information System, okay. So this project is likely about managing and updating data within a company's human resource system, okay. On the far left, as you can see, this is the list of all different tasks that need to be completed for this project. They are grouped into categories like data administration, security, and data dictionary. For examples, under the data security, you have the QMF security review or setup, and then security orientation, and so on and so on. And then the DA column is the person days. It tells us the estimated person days required for each task. Person day is simply one person working for one day. So for QMF security review has 20 DA, it means the task is expected to take the equivalent of 20 days of one person's work. And this helps in estimating the effort involved. Okay. And then the who column, this is the responsible person. It shows the initials of the person or people responsible for that specific task. As you can see, for example, QMF security review and setup, you see the EFTP, meaning that EF and TP are involved. Okay. For the security orientation, it's EF and JA. Okay. So it makes accountability clear. And then this timeline. Okay, at the very top, you have the years of 2020 and 2021, 2022, and each month, January, February, and so on. And this is the project calendar. And the horizontal bar here is the core of the chart. For each task, there is a horizontal bar. And the start point of the bar indicates when the task is scheduled to begin. And the end point of the bar indicates when the task is scheduled to finish. Okay. Okay, I think that's pretty the same. Okay, so this is a typical Gantt chart, but this is more like research summary. And the table that would typically accompany of a Gantt chart. It helps the project manager to understand the workload of each person involved in the project over time. And the Gantt chart, you know, it's with bars, right? Shows what tasks are happening and when. And this table tells you who is doing how much work each week or period. And the left column is the simply list all the individuals, okay, who are assigned tasks on the project, and you can see names like Edith Farrells, and then Woody Vinton, the Charles Pierce, and so on. And you can also see the casual or unassigned or co-op, which might represent temporary staff or work that hasn't been assigned yet, or maybe can be interns. And the next number to the names, as you can see that it's 5.0, it indicates the capacity of the full-time requirement. In many projects contexts, the 5.0 could mean they are available for 5 days of work per week or 5 units of effort per period. So most of these individuals are likely full-time on this project or available for a standard work week. And as you can see, there's an assigned here. It has a 0.0 capacity as expected. Okay. And then the next one is the initial columns. These are the shorthand initials for each person. And then the numbers across the top, as you can see, we can 2, 21, 24, etc. And these numbers actually represents different time periods in the project, like the weeks actually. So the first column after the initials, there's a 20, week 21 of the project, and then the next is week 24, and then week 23, and so on and so on. And they might be not in the perfect sequential order normally, but they still represent distinct time buckets. And the number in the grid of 2, 21, 24, 23 for added ferrules in the first week. This is the core data for each person and for each time period. The number on the cell indicates the time, the number of the person's day or unit of the effort. Okay. And the total days at the bottom row, this is to sum up all the numbers of each column. It tells the project manager the total number of the person's day required by the entire project team for that specific time period. Okay. Okay, that was Gantt chart. Now let's turn to PERT chart. Okay. Remember that the Gantt chart are great for timelines, while the PERT chart excels at showing the relationship and the order of the tasks. And this specific PERT chart is the simplified PERT chart for creating a small website. It's designed to clearly illustrate the ordering of the project tasks and the relationship of a task with preceding and succeeding tasks. So let's break down the elements. As you can see here, the boxes here is called nodes or the activities. Each box represents a distinct task in the website creation project. And inside the box, as you can see, the test number, uh, it can be 1, 2, or 3. Okay. And then the test name, a short description of the design websites or write HTML. This is the task name and the duration. Yeah, whether it's 1 day, 10 days, 20 days, and kind of thing. And then the start of the date, the planned start date for the task. Okay. For example, it's start on the 1st of August 2021. Okay. And the end date, it's supposed to be oh, sorry, it's January. Okay, so it's 18th of January on 2021. And as you can see, there's an arrow here, arrow connecting the boxes. Is very crucial because they show the dependency or sequences between the tasks. And an arrow going from task A to task B means that task A must be completed before the task B can begin. Okay. Okay. Okay, so these slides builds directly on what we discussed earlier about the change management and implementation, where we identified the user involvement as one of the three critical factors for successful system building and organizational adoption. And this slide answer the questions on how do we actually increase that user involvement and why is it so important. Okay, so why is it important? Unstructured projects need user input. Okay, because if the project is unstructured or complex, the people designing or building the technical team might not fully understand all the nuances of the how the users work, what problems they face daily, or what they truly need. Users are the only ones actually do the work every day. So their insights are valuable, okay? Without their input, you might build something technically brilliant but practically useless. So these are external integration tools. Um, link work of implementation team to users at all levels. Yes. And these are not necessarily spread software tools, but rather ways of working or platforms that facilitates communication and collaboration. Like for example, prototyping the software first to allow the users to interact with early versions of the system, and then shared documentation platform where the users and developers can comment on requirements or design, and then the user feedback uh, portals, dedicated places for users to submit ideas or maybe report any issues. So what are the strategies? Now look at the practical strategies to actually get the users to be more involved. First of all is to include users in the project team. This is one of the most effective strategies. Don't just show users the finished product. Make them part of make them part of the team. This means having an actual end users work directly alongside the developers, business analysts, and project managers. And to assign leadership roles to users. Take it a step further. Don't just include users, but give them real responsibility and an authority within the project. Okay. The last one is to address the feedback promptly. Yeah. This is about the responsiveness and building trust. If you ask for users' feedback, you must act on it and do so quickly. If users provide suggestion, report bugs or raise concern on and then nothing happens, they will quickly become disengaged and feel their input is not valued. Okay, so this topic is incredibly important because as we have discussed, implementing new system or undergoing big organizational change often faces significant pushback from the very people who are supposed to use them. And remember, challenge in enterprise system and mergers and how poor implementation and change management practices often lead to failure. It's partly due to employees' concern about the change and resistance, but key managers. So, so how to overcome the user resistance? Because we need to understand the core issues. Users may believe change is detrimental to owned interests. This is fundamental. People are not usually resistant to change just for the sake of it. They resist because they genuinely believe the change will make their life harder, reduce their influence, make their job obsolete, or something negative impact them personally. Personally, they might fear losing skills, status, or even their job. So this can lead to something called counter implementation. This is just passive grumbling, it's defined as a deliberate strategy toward implementation of a system or innovation in the organization. Okay, so what are the solutions? How do we prevent or tackle this resistance? Okay, first of all, of course, the user participation, the training and education. Okay, and then maybe, yeah, incentives for cooperation, because people need some little extra motivation, and this could involve rewarding early adopters kind of things. Okay, and then to improve the system usability, a system that is difficult, frustrating, or illogical to use will inherently generate resistance. Now let's wrap up our discussion with this important slide: designing for organization. These slides brings together many of the concepts that we have touched about the change management, user involvement, and managing technical complexity. It emphasizes a critical point: when you introduce a new system into an organization, you are not just changing the technology, you are fundamentally changing how the organization works, and therefore how people works too. So the core message here is that need to address ways in which organization change with new system. You cannot simply drop a new piece of software into a company and expect everything else to stay the same. The system will impact people, process, and even the power dynamics. Okay. So there are two main aspects of this organizational design consideration. The first is the procedural change. Procedural refers to how things are done, the established methods, steps, and rules that guide daily operations. A new system almost always mean change to these procedures, right? And it will affect the job functions, and it will affect the organizational structure, the power relationship, and the work structure. And the second thing is the ergonomics. It's the scientific field focus on interaction of people and machines in work environment. So in simple terms, it's about designing things. For example, systems, jobs, workspaces to fit the people who use them, making interaction efficient and comfortable and safe. When we design new systems, we must consider the human element from an ergonomic perspective, like the design of the job, and then the health issues, and the end users interfaces. Okay, so next one is the organizational impact analysis and socio-technical design. For this one, the organizational impact analysis, it sounds like a fancy term, but it's actually quite straightforward. It means that the system will affect the organizations and its people. It's like doing a foresight exercise before you even implement the system. So, how the system will affect the organizational structure, the attitudes, and decision making operations. Like the organizational structure, will department merge? Will the new teams be formed? Will there be fewer layers of management, for example, right? If you introduce a new centralized customer relationship management system, It might change how sales, marketing, and customer service departments interact, even their reporting lines. So the attitudes is one of the impact analysis, like how will the employees feel about the change, and then the decision making, who makes the decisions, and how will those decisions made with the new systems, and will data be more accessible, empowering more people to make data driven decisions, or will it be centralized control? Okay. And then the operations, how will the day-to-day work change? How will a process become faster, slower, and more complicated or simpler? Those kind of things. Okay. And then the from the side of the social technical design, this concept is crucial for modern system development. The social technical design means that designing systems that take into account both of the social is the human and organizational aspect, and the technical, the technology aspect. It's about finding the best way for people and technology to work together. And it needs to address human and organizational issues directly. It needs to separate sets of technical and social designed solution. It means that when you are designing a new system, you don't just think about the code, the hardware, and the network. You also separately think about the human side. It can be from the uh, what the ideal job roles, how should the team be organized, what kind of training do the people need, how can we ensure job satisfaction and communication with the new system. You analyze these two aspects together somewhat independently to understand their unique requirement. And then the final design is solution that best meets both technical and social objectives. The trick is not just to pick the best technical solution and separately the best social solution, but to find a design that optimizes the interaction between the two. Okay, so we have spent a lot of time talking about the challenge of managing project, the importance of planning, understanding risk, and even using tools like Gantt and PERT charts. Now imagine trying to do all of that manually for a large complex project, and then um, drawing charts by hands, calculating dependencies, tracking every person's workload with spreadsheets. It could be incredibly difficult and time consuming, right? So where this is where the project management software comes in. These are the computer programs designed specifically to help the project managers and their teams to plan, to execute, and control the projects more efficiently. Okay, so these tools can automate many aspects of the project management. These Our software handles a lot of tedious, repetitive tasks that would otherwise have to be done manually. Okay, and the capabilities for defining, ordering tasks, assigning resource to tasks, and tracking progress. Yeah, you can do all with the software. Okay, so there's an example for the project management software, the Microsoft project 2010. Yeah, mostly wide used in project management software. And this Microsoft Project has been a dominant player in this field. It's a very powerful and comprehensive tool, especially popular in the larger organizations. It includes the features like port and gain charts, and it can perform the critical path analysis. This is critical path analysis. Okay, sorry for typo. And then increase in SaaS, you know that the open source software. Yeah, it's software as a service. This refers to cloud-based software so that you can access over the internet, usually through a subscriptions instead of installing software on your computer. You use in a web browser, okay? And then the project portfolio management software. Yeah, it's multi-project optimization. When the organization has many projects running at the same time, it's not enough to manage each one individual. You need software that can manage the entire collection of the project. And this type of the software will help you to see the status of all projects all at a glance. And then you can allocate the shared resource, and then you can prioritize project based on the strategic goals and track the overall budget and project of the entire portfolio. So in conclusion, project management software is an essential set of tools in today's world. It takes the principles and methods we have learned, like Gantt chart and PERT charts, resource allocation and the risk management, and then provide a digital platform to execute them efficiently, helping project managers to keep complex projects organized and on track and ultimately successful. Okay, so we already reached the summary. I think you can read by yourself all the summary that we have just discussed together in this chapter. And then I will just jump into the next study case. Okay, this is from Pennsylvania's Employment Compensation Modernization System. It's actually an unfinished business. The project spiraled onto disaster. It's delivered 45 months late and left the key functions unfinished. So you will know what's happened. Okay. I will upload uh, another video of this study case explaining about what happens actually. And then on the discussion forum, in the discussion topic, you need to answer these case study questions. Okay. All right. So that's all. This chapter 14. I hope you enjoy listening to my lecture. Otherwise, yeah, you will not understand the concept of this chapter. Okay. So I will see you in the next chapter, chapter 15. Okay. So, yeah, see you everyone.